Welcome to Reflections, a program where we discuss values and virtues for the transformation of the individual and the society in general. I am Father George Ehusani, and I have with me in the studio today my young friend, Father Emmanuel Ojeifo, who is now studying at Notre Dame, University of Notre Dame in the US. I'm happy to have you back for, at least for this recording.
Thank you very much. It's my pleasure to be here once again.
I think it is wonderful that this is the time you chose to be outside the country. I mean, you're out of Nigeria at a very, very good time, at a time that we are suffering seriously. You are enjoying yourself in Notre Dame, Indiana.
We feel the impact of what is happening in Nigeria as well.
You have no NEPA failure?
Of course.
You go to the groceries, your issue is to choose which one is healthy to eat and so on and so forth. Not that you cannot, you know, do you know a tuber of yam in Nigeria is between 4,000 or 5,000 now, one tuber of yam.
Which is really very, very distressing.
And then, since you arrived, you have seen a bit of it. Since you arrived, you were driving, right?
Yeah.
Fuel shortage.
Yeah.
In your absence, while you went to enjoy in the US, fuel went from 195 naira per liter to 690, and we still have long queues. Can you beat that? Can you beat that? I mean, so how has it been? You are studying religion and society for your PhD. So tell us something about your studies.
Well, it's been very exciting so far. Exciting because I am studying what I chose to study, and I like to study, and I think that that's one of the best decisions anybody can make for graduate studies is that you study something that you are really passionate about. So and not just something that is just speculative.
No,
right?
for that one, we should be grateful to the bishop, to the cardinal first of all, and to the Archbishop of Abuja, who allowed you to study what you want.
Absolutely, absolutely. So, because I mean, coming from the society that we live in, you can't afford to do studies that are just merely speculative, abstract, theoretical, hanging in the air. You have to bring it down to the concrete, daily lived experiences of the people. So my studies of religion and society, theology and politics is to ask a question of social imagination. We are living in a broken and in a collapsed society where values are eroding fast every day, where people are faced with acute social crisis, like you mentioned. Even when you have your money, you can't access fuel. Yeah. People go hungry every day. I mean, all of the issues that you raised in a prophetic church in Ozovehe are staring at us in the face in a way that we never imagined at the time that you wrote these books, right? So you are asking the question, what does faith, what difference does being a Christian make in the existential situation, in the existential crisis of our day? How does being a Christian help us to reimagine a different kind of society that we want to live in? And this comes to the very heart of the Christian gospel, that the gospel is about a new social imagination. The gospel brings something new into the society of our day and of our time. That the preaching of Jesus, the teaching of Jesus, his miracles are all geared towards a different kind of world, a different kind of future, a different kind of people. So for me, that has been at the very heart of my studies, whether it is studies in eco-theology, the environmental and social crisis that we are facing today, with what Pope Francis has told us in Laudato Si, that there are two kinds of cries that we have to pay attention to today. The cry of the earth, which is linked to the cry of the poor. But also, how do we look at the human person today? What is our understanding of the human person? Because at the heart of the existential crisis we are talking about is an anthropological crisis, that we have lost a sense of what the human person is, the human person's origin, the human person's end, supernatural end. So if we do not
transcendence,
so if we do not understand where the human person is coming from and where the human person is going to, we will lose our trajectory along the way.
Well, I mean, I'm happy that you have introduced that, which is part of what we shall be discussing. But before we get into the discussion, what are we hoping to benefit from this privileged exposure of yours by the time you finish your PhD?
One, well, is to help us appreciate how different the societies where I come from and where I am studying are. They're really different societies. Yeah, there's the technological, scientific, material advancement that you find in Western civilization. But all of this is collapsing because it is not being rooted on a solid spiritual, transcendental foundation, values. So you get that very clearly when you appear in the Western civilization with all your own traditional religious and spiritual values. You see a society that is really prosperous, but a society that is also spiritually and ethically decadent.
That takes us straight to the topic of our conversation. The West. I want us to discuss the West, a dying civilization, question mark. I studied briefly in the US, but that is eons ago. 1980s. Okay. But you are there now, 2024, and with all that we are seeing happening in the global setting, I am beginning to raise a question. Is the Western civilization a dying, decaying, collapsing civilization? What is you are studying church and society, theology and life. So what is your own reading of the situation? Historians, social historians have consistently observed, and in fact, St. Augustine is said to have mentioned it, that societies collapse due to the want of order in the soul. Generally, big empires don't collapse because some other empire conquered it. Big empires often collapse because of rottenness, corruption, internal decay. And it has been observed that of the 27 or 28 civilizations that have arisen and collapsed, not one collapsed due to external attack, but each one due to internal decay. And my reading of the situation, and I want to confirm from you, is that when I look at the West, with all the achievements technologically and in medicine, in transportation, in IT and everything, excellent. But I see that civilization is collapsing. Some people actually say that civilizations last for just between 200 and 300 years, and that of the Western civilization, when you think of from the Enlightenment period till now, they have run out their course and that they are collapsing. What's the reading of the situation?
I would agree with that reading. I have read a bit of Anatomy as well. So I think that one aspect of life that we need to pay attention to is history. History, a reading of history. We are living in a society where history has been taken out of the curriculum.
Unfortunately.
Yeah. But even in Western societies, history can also be a bit distorted when it doesn't pay attention to various important signposts along how we understand history. So historiography, there's history, which is the understanding of the succession of events over a period of time, but there's also historiography.
Yes.
So historiography is how do you interpret the course of history? Yeah. So which is something that we need to pay attention to, because Pope Benedict XVI in 2005 had made the assertion that Western civilization is suffering from what he calls transcendental abstinence. That there's an abstinence
of the transcendent.
Yeah, an abstinence of the transcendence, a metaphysical abstinence that is bedeviling Western civilization. And
then it is in that context that he talked of the tyranny of relativism.
Yeah, the dictatorship of relativism, where nothing is taken as stable. There are no stable values, no absolute values. So we live in, the kind of thing that Nietzsche talks about, a transvaluation of values, that the traditional metaphysical foundations of Western civilization have collapsed. And he helps us appreciate the fact that Christianity made a difference in Western civilization. A major difference, because he sees the reading of Christianity within a tripod. So he talks about the tripod of Western civilization that is built on Roman law,
Yes.
but Roman law was also founded on Roman religion.
Yes.
He talks about Greek philosophy, Greek metaphysics, that was also founded on what? Greek religion. And then there is the intercourse with biblical religion, the Judeo-Christian tradition. So he says Western civilization was built on this tripod. But now what we are experiencing is the fact that each of the legs of this tripod has collapsed. And that is because there is a pushback towards Christianity, Christian values in Western civilization, because it was Christianity that helped to bring a harmony between these other two legs of the tripod, Greek philosophy and Roman law, and then biblical religion. And so the meeting of these three, especially at the very beginning of Christianity, was what brought about the flourishing of Western civilization. Because you go back and read the ancient writers, the ancient Greek writers, the ancient Roman writers, they were troubled by Christianity. Troubled by Christianity because Christianity came to bring something entirely new. The fact that we could read the Gospels and say, God is love. There was the Greek pantheon, there was the Roman pantheon, but they didn't believe that God could have the emotion of love.
The personal dimension.
This personal dimension of religion. The gods were to be feared.
Yes.
They were to be worshipped.
But not
they
loved.
But they were not to be loved.
Yes.
Because even the gods do not express love. What's the relationship of the gods to the people?
Yeah.
Is observe what the law states, observe the customs of religion, observe the traditions.
Watch out for the taboos.
Yeah, watch out for the taboos. And then if you do good, you enjoy the protection of, if you do this, you enjoy the retribution of the gods. But then here comes Christianity that says God is love, but not just that God is love, but that God desires to enter into a relationship with each person. A relationship. So that was so Christianity was able to harmonize, bring out the positive elements in Greek philosophy and in Roman religion, and helped to build Western civilization.
Build that, and Christianity brought the dimension of universalism.
Absolutely.
So, got this from the Greeks, got this from the Romans, and got this from the Judeo-Christian legacy, and universalized it. And now use that to go across the world. Now, you have a pushback against that Christianity, against those religious values. So the three legs
have collapsed entirely.
And you ask yourself, for how long will Western civilization as such survive?
What we are seeing today is a replacement of Christianity. If people are pushing back on Christianity, they are not pushing back on religion entirely. What they are doing is actually a transformation of religion. So Christianity is taken out of the stage, out of the public stage, but what has come to replace it? Celebrity music that has no content.
Celebrity music with no content.
With no content.
Like we are seeing in the country today. We are replacing our traditional, rich musical genre. We are replacing it with just anything to make
fleeting, anything that excites the human, the passion, the sensual passions of the human person.
Shake bottom.
So because I wrote in my Facebook some time ago, I grew up in I'm not quite old, but I grew up in the 90s, listening to the kind of music that my father was playing.
Yes.
The Sonny Okosons, the Osita Osadebes, the King Sonny Ades.
Yes.
I mean, I remember the lyrics of some of those songs.
Yes. They had something to teach.
They had something to teach in terms of values.
Yes.
They had a gift for society.
So today I hear that, oh, this musician has won Emmy Award, Grammy Award. And I say,
over what? Grammy Award.
With excitement. I say, what did he sing? By the time you check the lyrics, it has nothing. Somebody says, no be money, I have money, whatever. I mean, and you really take nothing home. And I'm wondering. And then you see the millions of people that are...
the millions of views,
that
the
are
millions
excited
of
about this music.
People are excited about
so
them.
we have lost something.
We have lost. So even, and all of the musicians of the 70s, 80s, and 90s, they were singing from a background, a deep spiritual, religious background. These are people who were grounded either in Christianity or grounded in the sacred values of African traditional religion.
Yes.
And these values were the framework and the bulwark
so you
of
are
the songs that they produced.
you are saying that it is not as if they are replacing.
They are throwing away religion entirely. They are replacing it
because they can't throw away religion.
Religion cannot be. It's constitutive of the human person. The human person longs for something beyond, something more, something beyond yourself.
So, the young people in this country who think that, religion, there has been all kinds of scandals in religion, we throw away religion,
and then...
And I have been saying, you are mistaken, because the human person is inherently religious. You can replace Christianity, you can replace Islam, you can replace all tradition, but you can't throw away the instinct for religion. So what are people replacing Christianity with?
So celebrity music, as I said, sports
celebrities. Yes.
There's a craze for sports. The amount of money that people spend watching European leagues play football.
People fight and kill themselves in Nigeria.
Gambling, betting. How even people die because they bet and they lose.
They hang themselves.
Yeah, they hang themselves because then you have borrowed money, and it's something that once you start betting, it becomes addictive.
It's an addiction.
It's an addiction. You win the first one, and then you think, if I put in more money, I will win something big. But there's also scams. The amount of young people, even in this city that we are living in, who are making billions of naira on scams, Yahoo. It's unimaginable.
And they have abandoned Christianity that used to teach people values. They are now not only doing Yahoo, they are supporting the Yahoo with Yahoo Plus, which means fetishism.
Absolutely. Occultism. Say the number of young people who are being killed in our universities in the name of what? Occultism. So people go to school to study, but then get themselves involved in all kinds.
Or they are victims of
and the amount. I mean, just read the number of young people. I mean, there's violent armed conflict between rival gangs and cult groups, and then they wipe out students to kill. So these are the things that young people are. Even social media can become a religion. Yeah, addiction to social media can become a religion, where people, all that they are concerned about is
the number of people,
number of likes, number of views. There is a frightening narcissism that has entered social media today, where this cult of self-admiration. So the human person can become a god in himself. So you don't throw away religion, but you
make yourself a god.
You make yourself a god.
Before we got to the studio, I was telling you that, first of all, in the late 19th century, the communists thought that they can banish religion. So they banished religion, which was mostly Christianity. But the champions of the communists became
the religious figures of their society.
So you go to Leningrad, and the biggest statues, after removing the statue of Our Lady, the statue of Jesus, statue of Saint Joseph, the biggest statues were the
statues of the communist figures.
Yes.
Which is why when a few years ago, what was going around, the iconoclasm in European societies, people were bringing down those statues because they go back and read history and say, how come these statues were here in the first place? When we read the lives of these people and we see the kind of atrocities that they committed. How come we have imposed them as symbols of emulation in our own society? So they were bringing down many of those statues.
So you talk about replacing the statue of Jesus, of Mary, with that of the communist leaders. Then in the West, cathedrals have been replaced by finance houses.
Sports stadium.
Yeah. So you have stadium that has taken over, and on Sunday morning, people are in the stadium replacing church. So
people don't believe that this is true, but this is the reality, because I am in Notre Dame, South Bend, where American football is a big thing.
Yes.
Check what happens on Sunday. A weekend that there is a game. Go to the churches and see what's happening.
Church is empty.
The church is empty. You can't even dare pass 200, 300 meters to the stadium because everywhere is
But I hope you know that in this country, there are some pastors or priests who change the time for mass or the time for their Sunday service
to accommodate,
a football event. That is how crazy it has become. Meaning that actually, even within the church, there are people who have started this idolatry, who have started worshiping pleasure, the pleasure of football entertainment and so on, and still call themselves Christians.
But Jesus makes it clear you can't serve both God and mammon.
And I mean, so they don't know that by changing the time for your mass in order to accommodate football,
that's difference to mammon.
It's idolatry.
Idolatry. Yeah.
So this is the problem that to put our discussion together, that the West is losing it. Unfortunately, we are copying them fast, right? Now, they are throwing away orthodox religion, traditional religion, but they are not religionless.
It's a transvaluation of religion. There are new religions, new religious symbols that are taking center stage in the lives of people.
But those new religions, meaning pleasure, celebrity symbols, and all the football, entertainment, all kinds of things, sex.
They cannot satisfy the deepest longings of the human person, which is why we still see an existential crisis in those societies. Mass burnout, anxiety, fear, how all of these have gripped the lives of people.
So the new religions that are taking over from the traditional religions are not able to
satisfy the deepest longings of the human person. Because, I mean, what did St. Augustine say?
The Lord has created us for himself, and our hearts are restless
until they rest in God. 17th century French philosopher Blaise Pascal says that there's a God-shaped hole in the heart of every human person. And that you pour in money, it will not fill it. Pour in pleasure, it will not fill it. Pour in power, it will not fill it. Pour in possessions, it will not fill it.
The void.
Yeah, the void can only be filled by the one who has created that void in the human heart.
This is it.
I think that we need, and these are not new discoveries.
No.
2,000 years ago, Jesus made this already clear. Look at the rich young man who came to Jesus to say, "Good master, what must I do to inherit eternal life?" He's a rich young man. He has all the indices of a successful life, but he still discovers that there's something missing. There's emptiness. And then he says, "What must I do to inherit eternal life?" Because that's a fundamental Christian question. What must I do to inherit eternal life? Jesus says, you know the commandments, right?
Keep it.
Go and keep the... And the man says, I have kept all these commandments since I was a little boy. And I say, if this guy was lying, Jesus would have told him, my friend, you have just told a lie. But we're told that Jesus looked at him steadily and loved him.
And said, there's something more.
There's one more thing that you lack.
You are too attached
to your material riches. Go and sell all you own, give the money to the poor, and come back and follow me.
And so the man went away sad.
Because he was a man of great wealth. So I said, if we think that money satisfies everything, here is a man who tells us that that's not true. It's a lie. That he has money, he has wealth, he's a young man, he's a success story, he is today's celebrity. He has G-Wagon, he has everything.
Yes. And talking about celebrities that our young people are literally worshipping. How many of them in their private life are really examples?
Isn't that why young people today, even on social media, you see how there's a sense of despondency? Because the people you have held up as symbols of success, a good life, a successful life, a happy life, you come and hear that there's this great void between their public outlook and their private lives.
Many of them are living in quiet desperation.
Yeah.
They are seeing psychiatrists and psychologists. They are not those you would call truly happy people. They are smiling people outside, but they are not truly happy people. I give people example of this 2019 Miss World, the lady who committed suicide in New York. She jumped from a 25-story. She was a successful person. I mean, she was a barrister, a lawyer, and she was Miss Louisiana, and then she became Miss America. But there was a void inside.
So I think that everybody has to get to that point where they recognize that there's something about the human person that cannot be satisfied by all of the things that people are running about for today. David Brooks has a book, one of the most fascinating but deeply profound book that I have read, which he titles The Second Mountain, The Quest for a Moral Life, the quest for an integrated kind of life. And he says that every human life is a two-shaped kind of mountain, and that the vast majority of people are living on the first mountain of their lives. And what are the indices of the first mountain? All of the things that we consider to be the success stories.
Pleasure.
Yeah, pleasure, power, position. Yeah. And then he says, when you hit a crisis point,
you begin to desire the second mountain.
You begin to, that becomes the starting point for the journey to the second mountain.
Is that not why many people discover God seriously? When they hit a crisis
point, yeah.
So crisis point become a catalyst
for this advancement to the second mountain.
We shall have to have another discussion to continue this. I have been speaking with a young man, Father Emmanuel Ojeifo, who is a member of Terra Leadership Foundation. He has been with us for many years, but he's been out enjoying himself at Notre Dame University in Indiana, USA, studying the church and society. And we are here discussing modern civilization and the crisis of meaning. I think that's how we can summarize it. Modern civilization and the major crisis of meaning. We need to have a second segment on it. Thank you very much.